Thursday. Happy Thursday. Welcome to the Knowing Show. I am your host, Christene Marie. And y'all, we had such a fun night last night. We played trivia for the first time. I was inspired by one of our community members, I'll say. He told me one time, he was like, I'm playing trivia tonight. I'm sorry I missed your show. And I was like, what is happening? Tell me about your trivia game. That's so much fun. And so I went and looked up the lady, and it was just so fun. Everybody just hung out for over an hour and they had the best time. And so last night we played trivia for the first time, and I feel inspired to make that a normal game night. I think, hey Brian, what do you think about game night rather than trivia every week? It's like a game. We do something fun. Because y'all, for those of you who are new here on the Knowing Show, we do go pretty deep. We talk about how to grow. We talk about how to cultivate ourselves. We talk about where in our lives is there an old program maybe even keeping us back. And by old program, I mean maybe something that we adopted when we were kids that we experienced and never processed. And how is that shaping my present? So how is the past showing up and influencing me today? The great one, hello. I'm so glad you're here. Emery, hello. Thank you for joining. Guys, thank you for coming on last night to play trivia. It was so much fun. And Brian and I were just chatting about making it a game night on Wednesdays. So I'm excited to do that. Tonight, I am excited to actually talk a little bit more business. And also, I just need to give you all a heads up. I have not felt this sick since I had COVID. And so I am really struggling. I took 2 naps at different times today. And the first one, I was trying to sleep and I just was like low-key hallucinating. And I was like, this is not good. But anyways, I was able to sleep for my second nap. And I just canceled all my meetings today. God bless everybody who I put out. So tonight, though, we are going to go live and see how this goes. And I'm excited to talk about this topic because the question of branding is one that is my occupation, you could say. But also, all the work that we're doing here on the show is effectively cultivating our brand. And I was standing on stage I guess this was at the beginning of 2024. I was in Vegas and I had everybody raise their hand. I said, how many of you have a personal brand? Maybe a third of the room raised their hand. And it was really, really good for me to get a pulse on, okay, people don't think that they have a brand, but the reality is every single one of us has a personal brand. Every single one of us has a manner in which we cause people to feel something when they engage with us. Because when you think about what is a brand, it is effectively the feelings and emotions that somebody has when they think about the experience with you. A strong brand sets the expectation for the experience that they're going to have with everybody that they come into contact with. And so the question is, what's the experience we want others to have with us? What's the experience we have with ourselves? And so we're going to be talking about this tonight. But before I do, just jumping in on the chat here. Sai, hello. I'm so glad to see you. Hi, Lavender. Cute. Emery, what do you know about vibration? Oh, not much. And I'm so excited to learn more. I went to an event in August where they were talking about vibration in a way that I really got. Like, it made sense to me. But it was also so foreign that I need to go and immerse myself in it again. Brian says, you do look a little flushed. Man, I'm feeling it. It's rough. John, Amber, thanks for joining. Good to see you. I love you, 18. Hello. Thanks for joining. Jeff Herbert. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. He says, you have a natural glow. Well, that's the natural glow of being ill. So I will take it. Oh, my goodness. Azay, hi, Istanbul. Hello. Thank you for joining. That's awesome. Isn't it cool, y'all? That's another thing that I think about while we're kind of getting the conversation going for tonight. But it's amazing how we can connect. We're all so connected from literally different countries, cultures. And so this question of branding tonight, actually in relation to that, is so interesting because the more we diversify our own experience, the more we actually broaden our own brand, our own understanding, and thus our ability to connect with more people. And so if we only ever exist in our own little bubble, in our own little silo of experience. We're actually going to inevitably ostracize people because we don't understand. And so the more we cultivate ourselves, the more we cultivate, we talk about intelligence here, the intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, physical intelligence. And, you know, I almost wonder, this is kind of cool. I never thought of this before. I wonder if there's kind of like an experiential intelligence, because I cannot tell you how much I have gleaned from life simply by travel. You know, when my life fell apart 4 years ago, I started traveling, and it wasn't intentional. I actually went to California to pursue a potential business partnership. But then I ended up just continuing to travel, and it was amazing. And so I would travel for business, but I would inevitably stay for about a week or two, sometimes 3 weeks in those towns where I was speaking at an event or attending an event. And it really was like this broadening and deepening. Like I deepened in terms of my own experiential knowledge, but then also my experiences themselves broadened. So it was a width and a depth that took place by way of experience. And so this question of, could this be a fifth intelligence, experiential intelligence? I love that. And I would be so curious to hear you all in the chat. What do you think about that, y'all? I've never thought of that, but I really, really love that concept. Oh, AJ, chicken noodle soup and lemon water. Thank you. I actually need lemon water. Sai, I need to do a store run. Need anything? Snacks. I do need something. I would love if you could grab me. What would I have you grab me? I don't know. I just had lentil soup and it was fine, but it wasn't fancy. I just am like, make me well. Terry says, I got a brand once and it was incredibly painful. You're talking about like a cow branding. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I experience it too. Oh my gosh, I think I think I'm reading that out of context. All right, y'all, let's dive in. How to build a personal brand. I'd love to hear your feedback as well regarding experiential intelligence. I just love that. I love that concept. The great one. You can log off if you're sick. You don't always have to be strong. The great one. I have been going live every day since June. And so I need to stick with my trend. I think I'm on day like 235 or something. So I'm like, let's do it. Dub Styles, hello. I'm so glad to see you. All right, y'all. Brian, I would be your chauffeur. Thank you. Y'all, let's dive in tonight. How do we cultivate a strong brand? And again, it starts with just the recognition that we have one to begin with, that we know, man, everything we do and say has weight in how we're understood and how we're perceived and the impact we make in the world. There is such a degree of responsibility over how we show up. And, you know, I've been thinking there's a gentleman who has joined us on a regular basis, and he's really going through a rough time. And every day or so, he'll share what he's struggling with. And I've been thinking about him a lot because there's something about taking radical responsibility over our inner self and saying, I cannot change the external, but I do have power over the choice, over how I show up, over how I view the world, over how I view this experience and this circumstance. And so when we start recognizing the power of our personal brand and we're like, okay, I already have it. The question is, how will I cultivate it? Who do I want to be? How do I want to show up? Who do I want to be as a father? Who do I want to be as a sister? Who do I want to be as a daughter? That last one, who do I want to be as a daughter, was really, really impactful for me. It was about 2 years ago when I sat with this question, because I just had this realization, you know, my parents aren't going to be around forever. So who do I want to be as a daughter to them? And then also, what do I want in terms of my own target, my own ideal for the relationship in and of itself? And doing that with each parent. You know, the ideal is that our parents live long and are healthy the whole time and that we have a good relationship with them. Again, there's a lot we can't control, but going into the self-analysis necessary to effectively consider every part of our lives. Who am I in each regard? And who do I want to be in each area? So it's a critical analysis, so to say. And frankly, that's how I start off with every single business. We come in and do an audit of their brand, of their customer experience with them, of looking at the data. And so as we talk about, okay, well, how do you cultivate your own self, your own personal brand? We need to do those same things, doing an audit. And so sitting down and considering, okay, what are my values? What do I really, really, really care about? And I might even do a workshop on this. So if you guys ever want to do a live workshop, let me know. But I really find that, man, when we take an hour, 60 minutes to ask ourselves critical assessment questions, we get to know ourselves so much better. And then we can show up with intentionality so much better. I mean, it's even thinking, I think Christopher Adams, you asked this question. Christopher Adams sent me a note and he was like, how do we parent in this digital age? How do we like cultivate our kids? And so I want to talk about that probably tomorrow night. We'll talk about parenting. And you know, somebody asked me the other day, they're like, how can you talk about relationships when you've been divorced? I'm like, good question. But here's the thing, y'all, we all have our own experience that we can share. And it's not just me sharing. I love hearing from you guys. I love hearing from your experience and adding. It's like we're all building this house together, coming from our own experience, coming from our own depth of wisdom. This morning, we were talking about knowledge versus perception. Really, truly knowing comes from being able to look at the world through the lens of God and saying, okay, God, like, I want to see the world through your eyes. And I'm not talking about religion. I'm talking about having the ability to see people for who they truly are rather than just our own biased perspective, our own biased perception. So it's almost like a leveling up in the ability to be able to see people and see them for who they truly are beneath the layers of hurt, beneath the layers of pain. And so when we cultivate a personal brand, that's us doing that work for ourselves, going beneath the layers of pain and protection, people pleasing. And so as we think about, okay, well, what do I value? A lot of times our values are shown by what we get angry over. Like what really triggers me is often a sign, man, I really have a value there. There's something there that really, it's like an itch that needs to be scratched. And so the more we take time to consider, why am I having a strong emotion around that in particular? Is it a value? Is it an unhealed wound? And so in this question of what are my values, one of the best ways, again, is to consider what makes me angry. Another one is, okay, well, what is a guiding principle that really does guide my life? So one of my values is not being someone who gossips. One of my values is not complaining. And frankly, I woke up one morning and I just had this thought. I was like, and I was laying in bed, I was like in the state of becoming like slipping from subconscious to consciousness. And I just had this thought, if I was to play the role of somebody who is grateful, how would that person act? How would they show up? How would they love? How would they engage with the world? What would they talk about? What would fill their mind? And so this question, this audit of ourselves can, in terms of our values, what do we talk about? What fills our mind? So that question of like, what are our shower thoughts? I think somebody even said that the other day, like one of the best ways to examine what you care about is, what are your shower thoughts? What preoccupies your mind? And, you know, one of them could actually be something even rather negative in a way, where there's been a source of conflict for me with somebody where I actually feel nervous about this person. Like she seems so unstable that I'm like, are you going to show up and like, I don't know, hurt me? And so there's something around that actually, what I'm afraid of shows me a value, is that I so value connection. Man, I want to be able to like love her back into relationship with me, you know? And I can't control her. And so being able to even recognize, okay, like that is a value of mine. I can't control other people, but let me at least acknowledge what's going on for me. So question number 1, what are your values? And I'd actually love, do you guys mind putting some of your values in? And while you guys, oh my, there's some interesting comments in here. Oh my. The one and only Nicole, no. Rick Jones, hello. Thank you for joining. DJ, honestly, you gotta look in the mirror. Dylan, hello. Kareem, oh, nice. I've always wanted to go to Morocco. Bernie, thanks. I'd love to know work ethic. Ray says work ethic. Loyalty. Benjamin says loyalty, courage. What good ones? Integrity. So good. What else? One of my values is it's not okay to abort and murder innocent babies. I'm with you, DJ. 100%. Alpha Centauri. Oh my gosh, I remember. Oh, I don't know who that is. Melissa Benoist. I'll look that up. Vincent, respect others. Brian, treat people with respect and kindness. So good. Kareem, I'm so happy today. Y'all, happiness is a real value of mine. Like I genuinely value joy. And so if I'm not feeling joyful, that's my hard stop to slow down, lean into whatever is going on in that moment and ask why. That 3-step process, slow down, lean in, and ask why, has been so helpful for me in really analyzing what's going on in that moment and effectively understand, like tracing the root. When I say ask why, it's tracing the root all the way down to effectively the genesis moment. Like, what was the originating experience that really caused pain here or caused distrust here? When I'm upset at something and DJ says, I feel, that's actually really important. We actually need to consider, oh, how am I doing? Because otherwise we subconsciously are feeling things apart from intentionally and consciously examining them. And those feelings run our lives, whether we like to admit it or not. I have plenty of colleagues who are like, I have no emotion. I'm totally fine. They don't impact anything. And I see it impact them all the time. The way that they show up at home, the way that they show up in the leadership conference room. Y'all, our feelings are so important to know so that they don't run the show. If we don't know what our emotions are, they're going to take the helm of the wheel. And so we need to know both our intellect and logic, the right or the left hemisphere of the brain, and we need to know our emotions, the right hemisphere of the brain. Otherwise, we're shutting down 50% of us. Jody girl, truth in speech, loyalty in relationships. Oh, beautifully said. I love that. Rick Jones, self-respect. So good. When you find out a company's values, how do you create that to create a brand? How do you use that to create a brand? So good. Let me get to that here in just a second. I'm going to make a star of that. Actually, oh, guess what I can do? I've never done that before. That's so cool. Bernie, I'll come right back to you. Identity, Benjamin, and coherence. Tell me, Benjamin, that's one of those questions that, somebody said vibration. How do you define coherence? Because I don't feel like I understand that one too much. I know a person, be careful, hun. There's some not so nice comments left here. Thank you for saying that. Last night, I actually started telling people that if they effectively, like, here's our vibe and this is what we're going for. And if you're not going to meet our vibe, I'm going to kick you out. But I really want people to join. So please be kind, y'all. Look at our values. What are your values, guys? Competence, caring for others, and conviction, Big Bear. Clorox. See, that's something, I feel like that's something where it's like, that's not, that's not serving anybody. If you genuinely think that, I'd be curious to hear why. So there's a fine balance between, I don't want everybody here to think the same way. And I also want to facilitate meaningful conversation where it's, so, and DJ, I'm seeing your comment and it's so distracting. Oh my gosh. Y'all, there's something here around having intentional conversation where people do disagree for the betterment, for the sake of unity, for the sake of growth, rather than just coming in with our swords raised and, pistols unholstered, where we're ready, where we're looking for a fight. So the goal for me here is unity. The goal here is growth. The goal here is healing as well. And healing cannot exist in a place where there's strife. It's really, really hard for healing to take place. Okay, so I'm going to go to Okay, I'm going to go to this question. Benjamin, I just saw you said I might need your help. There's a lot of comments here, so I'm going to scroll down and I'm actually going to go to this comment here, Bernie, so that we can address that since we're on the subject of branding tonight. And let me actually put this here. I don't think, DJ, you filled this out, but I told you last time, please feel free. And if you did, let me know because I missed it and I'm sorry I did. Guys, if you guys have a topic that you want to discuss, go ahead and fill out this form. And we'll go through it. Okay, so, and so I'm sorry, the reason why you should fill out the form is because it says, what kind of questions do you want to talk about? So this is a good opportunity for you guys to let me know, like, is there a subject that you'd like to talk about? So, okay, let me go ahead and we're going to move on to this next question. But before I do, I also save your comments. So I'm going to go ahead and save some really fast. Thank you all for your patience. We will resume in just a moment because if I don't save them, they all go away. Jean Louise, yes, please ask your question. But fill it out on the form, y'all. It's hard for me to keep on top of everything if they're in the chat, just because there's a lot of comments coming in here. Okay. So going, Bernie, to your question, when you find out a company's values, how do you use that to create a brand? So again, what is a strong brand? A strong brand really is one that, let me hide that. Okay. A strong brand sets and I learned this actually before I started my business. I learned this definition and I love it. A strong brand sets the emotional expectation for the experience someone is going to have with them. But in terms of like, what is a brand? It is value-based. It creates intentional experiences and it connects on an emotional level. That's how I define a good brand. But then like when you get to the next level, it's okay, then this is how they act as a strong brand, which is by setting the experience, expectation on the experience. But a strong brand knows who they are, they know who they serve, and they demarcate. So demarcation is effectively they cut through. They have a dividing factor. And in that process, they're not afraid of having lovers and haters, people that they attract and people that they repel. So I remember it was a couple of years ago, I realized that if I wanted to be a strong brand, I needed to allow for people to hate me. And like, I've got people who hate me here in the chat. And that's part of me being a strong brand, and that's part of you being a strong brand. And there's something when people are hiding behind a computer, we're more bullish, I think. We're just a little bit more cocky and brave than if we were all face-to-face. I actually heard somebody say, they said that they had been online and people had really been kind of hating on them. And then when they were in the same room, they just actually completely ignored them. They were like, they did not show up the way that they did online. And so I know that there's a part of that, but a strong brand. And let's use some actual real examples. People love Dunkin' and they hate Starbucks and vice versa. My sister had this with her father-in-law where like he loves Starbucks and my sister loves Dunkin', and it's this like friendly little battle. And it's cute. And what a good sign of a strong brand. They have people so loyal to them. People would camp out overnight to get the next Apple phone. Same with Chick-fil-A opens. People will stay up all night in tents for the next Chick-fil-A open. And so that's the kind of thing where it's like, okay, if you want to create a personal brand, the question is, well, who are you? Who are you as a company? So in terms of how do you use the values to translate it into a brand? Well, we have to know who you are to then be able to create anything thereafter. For us to know who we're serving, for us to know the experience we want to create, for us to know our mission and calling in life, we have to know who we are. And so what I really encourage people to do in terms of like, how do you use the values? Those guide everything. They guide your business decisions. They guide your hiring. They guide your firing. They guide the way that you show up in relationships. They guide you when you don't feel like it. So for example, this is a silly example, but frankly, it's so real for all of us. I had, I call him my darling. My darling and I had a disagreement. This was last summer. We've had disagreements since, but we had a disagreement one day, and we were walking out to the car, and I held his hand, and he just kind of looked at me, and I was like, I don't want to hold your hand right now, but this is who I want to be. And so who I want to be and what I value drives the decisions I make, even when I don't feel like it. Like even tonight, showing up when I feel terrible. I know that I'm going to get the energy that I need because I'm doing what I should. And so when we know who we want to be in terms of our values, if we know where we're going, now we've got an end destination and we have the guardrails to get us there. And then the how to. So think of it as a bowling alley. Your targets and your mission in life are the bowling pins. Your values are the guardrails guiding you from going into the ditch. And then the alley is the how to. It's literally the practical decisions you're making on your way to that end destination. And so these definitions of values are really, really, really important because, and this is kind of like the next step. So step 2, what are your values? Step 2, why? Really taking every single value. And like we talked about this a couple weeks ago, like looking beneath the iceberg. So there's a value on the surface level that we all see. We hear somebody say, oh, I really value compassion. Oh, I really value courage. Why is that? And then when you start looking beneath the surface, there's this whole wealth, this whole treasure trove of why. And man, the why is what connects you and me. Because, okay, sure. Yes, I value joy. So does everybody. But when I share my why do I value joy? Why do I value peace? Why do I value all these different things that guide the way that I show up in life? You know, that when I understand why, it adds so much more grounding, so much more resonance, and so much more ability for it to withstand when the going gets tough. There's this biblical concept of a house built on the rock versus a house built on the sand. And when the wind comes, a house that's built on the sand gets swept away versus a house that's built on a rock with strong values. The why digs deep into the ground. One of our clients was a foundation repair company, and it's like having footings and anchors into the ground to solidify the foundation. So the why is the anchor. The values are the foundation. But if we don't know our whys and we just have this head knowledge around, well, I value courage, but you don't have a why that goes beneath the surface, it's going to be really hard to show up and be courageous. It's going to be hard to be like what Teddy Roosevelt talks about, the one who goes into the arena when everyone's pointing, when he's all alone. That's really, really hard. That degree of and level of courage is near impossible. It also, when you look at courage, and I just love that you called out this value, because this level of courage forces us to level up out of apathy. It forces us to level up out of depression, out of shame, out of pride, out of ego. When we get to the level of courage, it allows for real change to be made. So I'm just going to go ahead and take a quick moment to say hi in the chat again. Just take a quick pause and get another question. Okay. Jean Louise said, can I ask a question? Jean Louise, here in Brazil, we don't know for sure what really happened in the Epstein case. Can you give your opinion on that? Ooh, man, you know, I am not the typical American. I have very little understanding of what happened there. I don't know. Honestly, I don't, again, with not gossiping, I know that happened, so it's not really gossip, but that's not something that I tend to fill my mind with. So I feel like I'm not the best person to ask. I'm sorry. But Benjamin says, and self-betrayal is weakness. Hold on. Okay, hold on. And why on the terms is linked. Okay, hold on. I got to scroll back up. DJ says you get your value from a higher authority, God. Yes, absolutely. And I also, this is an interesting point that actually, DJ, I would assume you wouldn't agree with. So immediately put your hackles, raise them. I actually think that we have way more responsibility than we think we do. You know, I just never really took radical responsibility for myself. And so I would just kind of be in this like upward, outward, gazing upward and being like, okay, God, like tell me what to do. But I never ever actually thought, well, who did you make me to be? Who am I? How am I different from everybody else? What are my unique giftings? And so when I actually learned to really go inward, man, I really can't. And I even came to know God more because we're created in his image. And so when we start to get to know the created, we get to know the creator. And so it's not just an upward, outward gazing into the sky. It's like going inward as well. So frankly, it's the spiritual intelligence, but spiritual intelligence is one of the intelligences. Like we were just talking about experiential intelligence. I glean understanding of God and the world by way of interacting with other people. And so to live in a siloed, and frankly, I did a knowing intensive with this couple this weekend. And it's hard because the woman in the relationship has a similar upbringing as I do, where it was just like, ignore who you are. Do not pay attention. And so it's like, okay, well, if I really am going to get to know myself, am I here for a reason? Do I have a purpose? And if so, that's where it's like, okay, well, so not just what are my values? Why are they the way that they are? But where am I going? What am I called to do? What is the mission that I'm here for? So I just wanted to add that in. So yes, adding in the superordinate principle of God being the one, like you said, being the one that I will look to and listen to, but also going inward and being like, okay, who did he make me uniquely to be? And you know, what a good call out. You had preconceived notions. Maybe I did. Thank you for saying that. That's a good call out. And then DJ says, we don't even know what happened in the Epstein case because they're keeping it all hidden. Ryan, keep hearing about Epstein grows. Blah. Okay, let me go back up. All right, I think I'm fading. German Zoomer. Hello, good to see you. I'm back in the chat. Sean, happiness isn't real. Oh, I've experienced so much joy. So I'm curious about why you think it's not real. Kevin, healthy way of thinking. Good. I'm so glad. Why do you value joy? So when I think about why, I have a value of connection that probably supersedes joy. But when I'm actually able to get to that level of joy on an emotional scale, let's say, my ability to enjoy other people and actually connect with them and solidify memories, like I look at that way of living. And I love that you asked me this because frankly, I'm leaning into this right now. And I'm thinking about the why. I was raised that way in so many ways, you know, like my dad just had such a value of fun. And so I was definitely raised to be that way. And man, I really believe that God is good. And that's hard. That's hard because look at all the pain around us. And that's something that really can piss people off. And frankly, when my brother-in-law was killed, it was like, God, what the insert your adjective. And so the value of joy, I don't want to let a single moment pass. I want to live life to the greatest extent. I want to live experientially. I want to know the goodness of every person and God and me and the fullness of every single moment. And I think that's actually probably a good way to sum it up. The reason why I want to experience joy is because I want to experience the fullness of every single moment. And I can do it through the vein of joy or through the vein of judgment. And I'm sure that there's many other veins, but from my experience, man, joy is just so much of a better way to live. All right, y'all. I am struggling. I am going to jump off and go to bed. All right. Thank you guys for joining tonight. I would love to hear questions that you guys would like to discuss here on the show. please, please, please let me know what you want to talk about. I'd love to dive deep with you guys on any kind of whatever subjects that you'd like to. What does energy mean? DJ says that. The only way that I really started to understand energy, and I'll end with this. David Hawkins described it in a way that really made sense to me. So he talks about effectively that there's different numerical values associated with different states of being, let's say. So shame, that's level 20. Depression, level 75. Pride, level 175. Courage, level 200. Joy, level 400, or whatever they are. So that's how I think of energy because honestly, vibration, energy, frequency, all of those terms haven't really meant anything much to me because I just haven't really understood them until I read Hawkins and understood this kind of numerical value assigned with a state of being. And there's an energy associated with that. Like when you see somebody who's in an energy of shame, they're just kind of smaller, like their shoulders are hunched over, versus somebody who's in a level of courage. They're just like a little bit bigger and prouder and more present. So that's how I define it. And I'm sure that there's a more psychological or mathematical way to say it. All right, y'all, have a Chris Sultan. Too much to think about. All right, yes, okay. Send me the form again. Here is the form. Let me know if you guys got that. Chris, I seriously doubt that. All right, y'all. Thank you for joining. Dubstyles, thank you. I will seek to get well. All right, y'all. Have a wonderful night. I will see you tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern for A Course in Miracles. We go through